was just reading this article that came out from CNBC, I think, published it. Basically, it's a white gold article talking about the very industry you're in, and a project that was founded by Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, and it's a very, very obviously it's a great article. He did that company did a podcast. I think it was 4 weeks ago, and it was a really good podcast as well. And during the podcast, he brought a really interesting comparable to the whole situation, with the with hydrogen, especially infrastructure, the importance of and really the importance of location. And the example that he brought up was Houston, and how all the infrastructure, how once the discovery was made, how all the infrastructure then played out right after that.
Yeah. Well, this company, that startup's no joke. I mean, they've already raised over $300 million.
Yeah, of course. No, it's focused in the U.S. And what they're really focused on is basically, it's kind of they're mirroring what we have in Quebec, in Ville-Marie, Lac-Saint-Jean, and Gaspé. It's that natural geochemical reaction that happens. The specific type of basement rocks that we have, the hydrogen that then seeps up in the surface, the shale coverings that act as secondary reservoirs linked to a principal fault. That is exactly what these guys are looking for.
Yeah, no, it was actually very exciting. I only had about 10 minutes to read and dive into it, and I think it was United Airways was also one of the funders of that project.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
A lot happening in this space. I mean, every day, I'm probably reading about 5 different articles related to different initiatives in this hydrogen space. A lot going on in Europe, a lot of investment, money into infrastructure, pipelines, car companies. It's really starting to take on a massive life here and growing, even faster than I think a lot of people's expectations.
So how does this change ThreeD Capital's perspective on your investment? I mean, is it, have you guys been accelerating or exercising warrants?
As people can see, we continue to be very supportive. We're buyers in the market. It's for us, we believe this is, just the beginning. We think this is something that is, it's more than just a nice story. We have deep science here and deep geology, and we believe we have a potentially world-class asset where we're actually not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what's key here, and we've been told this by many other people, is that what we have is location. We're right next to towns, a road. I'm going to be going up there in a couple of weeks and flying to Ottawa, and it's only an hour and a half drive from the Ottawa airport. So I think in this key instance, the fact is we have extremely phenomenal geological team. We have very promising results, and we have an amazing location. So and as you can see, there's a huge amount of demand and interest from this. And so from a ThreeD perspective, we're very much milestone investors. We're very much aligned with companies that want to build something that is real. And so that is what we're going to continue to do and support, is help companies that like what John is building here at QIMC till it becomes operational. And we believe these things can move from very early stage to future development in terms of coming up with geological reports, resources, so forth, very quickly. There's a lot of work happening on the ground, and we'll continue to support this.
And for people that are listening, thanks for joining. I'm Carl Boyd, your host for Follow the Money Investor Group. We have the CEO of Quebec Innovative Materials Corp. And then also we have Jackson, who's representing ThreeD Capital today. They're a big supporter of the stock. you did put out news yesterday, September 11th. Do you want to just touch on that, John? Because honestly, I've gotten a bunch of questions about
Yeah.
warrants, so maybe you can cover that.
Of course, and just to also, Carl, Jackson's also chairman of QIMC as well.
Yes.
I apologize for missing that.
I'm calling in through the ThreeD Twitter, but yeah, I am also I'm a bit on both sides here, so you can say I'm a bit biased from a couple different angles. So just having that disclosure out there, but I think makes us more aligned from both a ThreeD perspective as well.
Yep.
And even on that front, Carl, just to discuss a little bit also the warrants and everything between ThreeD, who, ThreeD, Sheldon, Jackson, and myself, we own around 40 million shares of the company. And Sheldon is on. Sheldon, if you want to.
Yeah, sorry guys. I thought
no problem, Sheldon.
And I was okay. Sorry about that.
No problem, Sheldon. And I was telling Carl, like between us, just me, you, Jackson, ThreeD, EMB, we own close to even more than 40 million shares here.
Yeah,
the company.
You certainly, if you look at the insider reports, ThreeD has been a pretty consistent buyer.
Big supporter of the stock. Sheldon, we were discussing that CNBC article that came out about the potential white gold rush. Any comments from you on that article? And it was a pretty significant story.
Are you talking about the Bill Gates article?
Yes.
Yeah, I got that this morning. So listen, we were first mover. Another fact that I don't know, again, so I don't know what John has already said, but Fortescue, fourth largest iron ore producer in the world, bought a controlling stake in a company a couple of weeks ago, I think, in Kansas, or actually exploring in Kansas, a state, for hydrogen. And that was like a real endorsement, if you will.
Yep.
Now, we just heard yesterday that they basically have staked the province of Quebec. Province of BC. And we understood that a few months ago they tried to do Quebec as their first pick, but we snookered them, or John did, like 2 years ago. So we believe that we have the best location and geological formation. So this is just a continuation of the endorsement. We know that many Japanese conglomerates that are in the carbon space are looking for positioning in this space. And so the real smart money is now realizing, why spend millions and millions and millions of dollars synthesizing hydrogen at high cost, very complex science and IP, when perhaps it can now be found naturally in the soil. So, and this was a new revelation, certain to us 6 months ago when John introduced the company to us.
So I'm going to sort of just ask a question and ask you guys to react to just what I'm thinking about. So if you've got Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos that are kind of entering this space, they've raised over $300 million, right? That's a lot of attention on sort of what you guys are doing. If the stock was to perform very well here, could you leverage this to raise a crap load of money?
So I'll let John answer it after me. Right now, we just put out a press release yesterday that the stock went under pressure when we made a new high because 10 million warrants got exercised. All the outstanding warrants held by non-insiders. So John put out a press release yesterday that we are fully funded for our next stage. Okay, so we don't need any capital at this time. We believe that we are going to achieve more material milestones with this money, and we'll evaluate it at the time. But right now, we are partners with the Quebec government, ostensibly INRS, and they're very, very supportive and are helping us out in many ways. So the cash needs for us are not significant at this time. So we don't see doing a financing right now.
Yeah. So why dilute?
And Carl, no, and just to a little bit, follow on Sheldon's point, we don't need cash. You know, all our INRS programs are fully funded till next year. Everything is already paid for with the team at the INRS. We have close to $1 million of hard dollars in the bank account right now. Practically no burn rate here. Nobody's getting any significant salaries or anything of that sort. Insiders just keep on buying and buying and buying in the market. We just exercised even our options, our 5-cent options that that I had, I think, 3 year. We had 3 years left on our 5-cent options, and I exercised 2 million of them on Monday. You know, Sheldon did 750,000 on Monday. Jackson did 1 million shares on Monday, the options. You know, so we just want, from our perspective, especially the big insider group, get as much stock as possible and accumulate as much as we can from our perspective.
Okay, so from your guys' perspective, do you think that the overhang it has been absorbed into the market, or there's still a little bit to go?
You know what? I'll just take this because I want to dovetail into another point. Yeah, we think the sellers sold. They were motivated sellers. They knocked it all the way down to 17 cents. And if you look at the chart, it's very funny. That was the breakout point. So it filled every gap. So technically, we believe the selling is all behind us. But when we went on this call, and you know what? This was the first call we had, and the stock was, I don't know, 7 cents, 6 cents, 8 cents. I can't recall. And
right around there.
Yeah. And I sort of mentioned about the risk return. And I go, listen, this is a great shot. Okay. This is something that if we can prove the null hypothesis, this is the leverage here on a risk return basis is outstanding. So here we are, approximately 20 cents higher, an enterprise value of, call it, 20 to $25 million Canadian. The comparable that we compare ourselves to in Australia is approximately 7 times our current market cap. And we believe our results show promise much greater than theirs. So here we are now, where we've actually technically made a discovery anonymously, in the sense that, you know, we haven't yet shown that we can extract hydrogen commercially, but the risk side has been reduced substantially and the return side has increased substantially. So again, I look at this as risk return, and I go, every time I see this data, I go, 3D's got to own more stock. And
which is why you exercised your option.
No, why 3D bought in the market. Okay. You know, like our options were low priced options. That's, you know, we wanted to give the company a little bit of money. But no, 3D's been buying. They bought 300,000 shares at, like, I think 30 cents a week ago. So I'm saying that buying at this price, I love it. And I think that we just announced that we're going into a new area. We're going to continue work in the area we're in, but we're going into a new area. The amount, we own the whole province of Quebec ostensibly for hydrogen bearing rocks. So this could be, hydrogen does not deplete. When you take hydrogen out of the ground, it repletes, it replaces itself. So imagine you have the Saudi Arabia of hydrogen, because you own this whole area, and that every time you take it out of the ground and ship it, it never depletes in the ground. So if you look at an NPV analysis, there's never a deal that I've seen in my career that can match the economics of this. So I just want to kind of put it in perspective that, you know, the game, we're still not even out of the first inning, to use that metaphor, in terms of where this could go.
Well, that's definitely exciting. I understand. You know, here's an odd question for you. If you were to take this discovery, would you rather have this discovery made in the province of BC, Alberta, or Quebec? And why?
I can answer why Quebec is such a great jurisdiction, and it's actually its history going back to, I believe, like 1990, where they have been trying to decarbonize the province for a very long time. So they're extremely friendly. I'd say probably the most friendly province in Canada, and one of the top globally of incentivizing and supporting from a governmental perspective green projects. So they might be very anti oil and gas and shale and so forth, but when it comes to green, the government is very, very supportive. Obviously we have the IRNS behind us, but I think that there is the potential for a lot more support from various different levels of government within the province. I think it's also great that where we're at, because we have, Sheldon mentioned, a huge district scale area of potential showings here of hydrogen, and we're right on a main road. Where, like I said, we're close to Ottawa, we're close to Ontario, which is obviously the largest province in or a populated province in Canada, but we're actually able to have this land without having to deal with populated cities and other highly populated areas, which is more difficult to find, for example, in Ontario. So I think these factors kind of really contribute to Quebec, in my opinion, being the best province.
Yeah, and Carl, just to follow up on that, in this deal, especially, going back even to that article in CNBC and the podcast that that group did, location. And in this deal, Quebec itself is a tremendous advantage. The carbon neutrality from the province itself is significant. The drive to achieve that. We've already been contacted by different levels of the government, offering even more support to us. This is a very big political win for the province itself, and even for the green agenda of the province itself as well. So in this instance, Quebec is a huge advantage.
You also have the port there. So I mean, in a potential future where hydrogen is being shipped out, you have the ability to go to Europe. Much more difficult doing that from BC.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to carry on at the point that Jackson's saying. So if you look at logistics here, and we, by the way, have parties that are already interested in offtakes. So that's what people think about us. And the reason for that is probably half of Canada's population resides in Quebec and Ontario. So when you look at transportation costs, that's very important in the metrics here. We're looking at hydrogen. So basically, in situ, first thing, we can convert hydrogen into ammonia. We can convert hydrogen into methanol. We can add CO2 and hydrogen and put it in a pipeline. Quebec is highly populated, even though where we are, it's not, which is good, of course. But as Jackson said, we're close to a port, so we can service Europe and we can service the northeast of the U.S. plus Quebec and Ontario. So that's a very, very significant operational and financial leverage for selling hydrogen. Which in the case of we know it's selling in BC for approximately $14 a kilogram. In California, it sells for as high as $40 a kilogram. And another aspect of hydrogen is it generates carbon credits. So there is a whole other business model here that can result in enormous cash flow for the company on the carbon credit side.
Just want to take the time to thank everybody for listening. And if you like and enjoy what you're hearing from our guests today, please follow their handles because they put out lots of news and you can interact with them on X. Let's talk about future milestones here, gentlemen.
So, Carl, it's a going to be a very busy month of September for the team. Um, uh, just on the capital market side, we're getting most probably our U.S. listing and ticker next week with the DTC eligibility next week. So that's a big milestone from us because we're getting a lot of demand from big U.S. investors who have been obviously calling us, asking questions. How can they come in? How can they participate? So that's a big milestone on that front, on the capital markets front. From the perspective of milestones on the ground, we press released yesterday that the team has already started the geophysics, the AMT, and the gravimetric analysis. What that is going to allow us is, so if you overlay the rock geology of the project and you overlay it on the showings that we've gotten, which is the soil sample showings, what is that indicating is that it indicates that in the areas where the granite rock itself is thicker, we have ppm measurements of 100 to 200 ppms. In areas where the rock it's not as thick, we have higher ppm measurements. Okay, so that is indicating to the team and to the team's model that we have numerous secondary reservoirs that are being fed by a principal fault that is feeding all these secondary reservoirs. So the geophysical work is going to basically locate all the secondary reservoirs as well as locate the principal fault. So it's going to be a very busy month of September, and we're expecting a lot of news flow and data on that front.
Can you kind of break that down a little bit, just in the layman terms, for people that maybe aren't following the verbiage that you're using?
So just in layman terms, so our natural hydrogen deposit and Professor LaFleche in the last 3 press releases has really explained that really well. In the natural hydrogen space, the really important thing here is there's a lot of false readings, a lot of false positives in terms of hydrogen readings, meaning that if you're in a previous hydrocarbon fossil fuel area, a previous oil and gas camp, you get a lot of false positive readings because that is not natural hydrogen. Okay. And also you get a lot of false positive readings with the type of soil because maybe the bacteria is creating the hydrogen. Okay. In our instance, we have in both of our 3 properties, Ville-Marie, Lac Saint-Jean, Gaspésie, these are properties that have no presence of any such bacteria in the soil themselves and no hydrocarbons or fossil fuels or any type of old oil and gas camp. Okay. So the hydrogen that is coming from there is natural renewable hydrogen. Okay. That is coming in from a fault, a principal fault that feeds that whole valley of hydrogen, and we're getting readings everywhere. Now,
what's the principal fault? Just for, again, because this is one of the issues we have covering mining is you get, investors that are coming in from different sectors and they don't actually understand what
yes.
even that is.
So, sorry, Carl. So a fault is the hydrogen has to come from somewhere. It's a gas. Okay. So there's an interreaction between water and a specific type of rock, okay, basement rock. That water interreacts with that high iron, potassium, thoron rock. There's a geochemical reaction. The O disappears, and what's left is the hydrogen. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what we've discovered. So we've discovered basically a 70 square kilometer, just to give you a little bit of a perspective of surface, a 70 square kilometer area with multiple hot zones and hydrogen. Okay? Now, what the next steps are, and that's what the team is doing right now, is you have to, there's areas where that hydrogen, like a natural gas, is captured in reservoirs. Okay?
Yep.
So what the team is doing now is we are mapping, I'll use the word mapping, underground where those reservoirs are located and what is the main feed that brings that hydrogen up to the reservoirs.
Okay.
So that is what's happening now, and we're expecting a lot of data, and that's why it's going to be a very, very busy month of September.
Okay, that's pretty exciting. Outside of that, and that's a lot. What other plans does the company have, or is it sort of just do that and then reassess?
What's going to happen, Carl, is what you do is you do that, you confirm even more the model, you confirm the extent of the reservoirs themselves, and after that, then you have a really good sense of where the main fault is, where is the big feed that's coming in, how many secondary reservoirs. And let's not forget, Carl, this is only 70 square kilometers. We control 250 square kilometers here.
Yeah.
These hot zones could be spread out throughout the system itself, and it goes back a little bit to what Sheldon said in terms of size in Saudi Arabia and a big valley of hydrogen. That is exactly what the team is seeing here.
I'm going to just pass it over to Sheldon and Jackson. Do you have anything to add to that, or even a question?
Yeah, so John mentioned 250 square kilometers. That's just on the one property. So we also have Lac Saint Jean, which is, I don't know exactly, but probably equal. So, this is an enormous area. And the thing with, gases, like they tend to be homogeneous. When you find a mine, you tend to find a pod, and that's it. It's like a needle in a haystack. When you deal with gases, and certainly in the hydrocarbon space, it tends to be consistent over very large distances. So it just gives you a sense that with these numbers that we published, which is 1,000 ppms, there is a possibility here, and this will be perhaps the next major catalyst. If it's possible at surface to capture the gas as it's emitted, because hydrogen is the lightest gas, so it comes right up, and that's where we were able to do these tests. If we are able to catch it and measure it commercially, then the finding costs are nominal, because we don't have to drill and dig and so forth for a certain amount of resource. So this is something that I think the technical people are going to try to see if it's possible. But if it is, we could generate revenue in a very, very short period of time, because we could capture it, truck it, deliver it, and it's again, it would be game changing. So this is something that we're going to see if it's possible.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna add, and I think that's actually could be what is a key differentiator here between QIMC and other hydrogen projects is, a lot of these other projects, John spoke about some of the false positives, even the ones where there seems to be, a significant amount of hydrogen, like in Australia. They spent millions of dollars drilling, and the best results were very, very deep, like 500 meters deep. So, none of these companies have been able to show economic feasibility of extraction, and part of that is because of the depth of these of discoveries. And so, as Sheldon said, this could be a huge differentiator and game changer if the ability to capture this from surface is feasible. And the reason we believe that it could be is because of the high ppms, the high purity, that we're seeing, not just, from two angles. One, the hydrogen numbers, but also the purity of the hydrogen. There's no hydrocarbons or other, CO2 emissions that we're capturing in these samples.
Okay. Just a quick pause there. I just want to thank everyone for listening. Again, if you are enjoying what you're hearing from our guests today, please like and follow their handles. You can communicate with them on those handles and follow their news. Sheldon actually mentioned the technical side of things, and I have got some questions. I think people are wondering who the technical people are, and if you can talk a little bit about those people and their experience, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I could talk about that. So Professor LaFlèche, who is the head of the INRS's geological lab, he has been working on this for the last 6 years. He's an expert on the field. He basically indicated to us which areas to stake. His model itself is based on a lot of the research papers that have come out of Australia the last 4 years, where he's noticed a lot of similarities in terms of the rock types, in terms of the faulting as well, that he was able to identify, and they basically use that as the model for what he has staked in Quebec. INRS is a Quebec graduate research funded university. Like I said, they have one of the biggest geo labs in Canada, and they have done significant work on hydrogen in Quebec, natural hydrogen. They've developed the sampling methodology on natural hydrogen. The initial work that they did, the INRS team had done on natural hydrogen was in southern Quebec, where they were soil sampling. And again, soil sampling, I want to really emphasize this, soil sampling makes or breaks a hydrogen project. I want to really emphasize that because a company like Total, who spent millions of dollars in the Pyrenees Mountains, sampled over 2,000 samples, soil samples, and they only got one result of 1,000 ppm, and the rest were under 100 ppms. Just to give a little bit of a perspective of what we really have here, and INRS initially did the sampling in the southern part of Quebec. That's where all the big shale gas plays are, natural shale gas plays, and they never got any results over 150 ppms. So that gives you another sense of the another perspective of what exactly Ville-Marie has and the extent of the discovery in Ville-Marie itself, by the team at INRS. Regarding the Quebec government itself, like I said, we've had multiple communications with them. They're very, very proactive on the file. And in this instance, the province of Quebec is one of the big advantages of the deal.
I just want to talk a little bit about industry and how hydrogen in this will be used and how that's maybe a growing industry.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. Part of it was mentioned before, but the one key area that seems to be really gaining traction is hydrogen for trucks, light duty trucks, vehicles. Companies like Nikola has commercially available hydrogen powered trucks that go 500 miles, can be fueled up in 5-10 minutes. So, very comparable to, the traditional way of fueling at the pump, much quicker than EV batteries and much longer distance, especially, if you consider these are trucks. So I think that seems to be a low hanging fruit in this field. You have companies like BMW and Toyota partnering up together to develop hydrogen-powered trucks. You even had Tesla recently coming out and saying that they're going to have their own first hydrogen-powered truck or car coming out in 2026. So, the vehicle space seems to be one of the first mover industries to go towards hydrogen. But, there are many other applications, for example, in plants. There are also hydrogen, as was mentioned before, it can be converted to ammonia or methanol. Right now, ammonia is a very dirty industry, accounting for 2% of global CO2 emissions. It's mainly used in fertilizers, among other applications. It's a massive $200 billion plus market globally, US. And so, and ammonia has the advantage of being able to be transported much more stably or very stable and with a lot of energy when hydrogen is converted to ammonia. And so it could be a very good way of transporting hydrogen, as well as obviously having its own use case, and same with methanol. So I think that there are many different applications that can be used for this. I mean, in my personal opinion, I believe the only way really to fuel the demand in data centers that is going to be required is going to have to come from hydrogen if they want to be clean. I think, solar and wind are going to just not cut it. And I think the only way right now to really match the demand from a power perspective in data centers is to increase natural gas. And I think a lot of companies and governments want to try and make this as clean as possible. And if you look at the bottleneck in building data centers right now, it's not chips, it's power. And so that power has to come from somewhere. And everyone is trying to get things to go more green. So I think that is a potential catalyst for hydrogen as well. So I think there are a lot of different irons in the fire. I think it was Scotland and Ireland are now committed to building a £3.4 billion hydrogen pipeline to fuel different industries. So many different applications. But I think from the very near term, because it's happening now, is the vehicle market.
Okay, guys. Well, QIMC is the ticker. They have lots of field work they're doing. I think, John, you mentioned a U.S. listing as well is coming.
Yeah, exactly. We're expecting it within the next 2 weeks. Yep.
Thanks everybody for joining today. I know there's been quite a few more than the last one we did with you guys. We'll see where the stock goes from here. If it did what happened last time, it'll be pretty exciting. But regardless, it's a very fascinating story, and it sounds like if you're a shareholder of this company, you're probably really excited right now. So thanks everybody for joining. Again, lastly, if you enjoyed the space today and the comments from our guests, please like and follow them on Twitter. Thank you very much, guys. Where could everybody reach out to you outside of X?
They could reach us at our info, any type of questions, info@QIMaterials.com. We're very responsive. We're a very transparent group. Any type of questions, you could reach us there. You could call, reach, and we respond very quickly.
And 3D?
We're also at info@3dcap.com. Same response as John. If you leave us an email there, we'll get back to you very shortly.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining. Thanks to the listeners. It's been fantastic, and maybe we'll do something over the coming months. And I wish you all nothing but the best on your journey and exploring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.